Hi viewers, Mohammed Shoaib, the prosecutor who was heading up the Trump criminal investigation in New York, put in his resignation letter that the evidence supports the conclusion that Donald Trump committed multiple felony crimes, and then that prosecutor resigned because the New York district attorney refused to indict Donald Trump, refused to hold Donald Trump accountable for the crimes he committed. What now? Let's talk about that because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So you've probably seen the headlines and read the stories by now. Here's how it's being reported by the New York Times headline: Trump is guilty of numerous felonies. Prosecutor who resigned says, and that article begins. One of the senior Manhattan prosecutors who investigated Donald J. Trump believed that the former president was guilty of numerous felony violations, and that it was a grave failure of justice not to hold him accountable. According to a copy of his resignation letter, the prosecutor, Mark F. Pomerantz, submitted his resignation last month after the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg abruptly stopped pursuing an indictment of Mr. Trump. Now I want to talk about just some of what Mark Pomerantz put in his resignation letter. But first, for context, who is Mark Pomerantz? Well, he's a 70-year-old practicing attorney. He went to Harvard undergrad, Michigan law. He clerked for Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart. He was a federal prosecutor at the Southern District of New York, United States Attorney's Office, where he did 2 stints. First, he was chief of their appellate division. After that, some years later, he returned to the office and he headed up the criminal division of the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office, where he successfully prosecuted mob boss John Gotti. He's taught at Columbia Law School. He also did a good bit of criminal defense work and is universally regarded as a white-collar crime subject matter expert. He served on the New York Mayor's Commission to combat police misconduct, and in February 2021 he was sworn in as an assistant district attorney in New York to head up the Donald Trump and the Trump Organization criminal investigation and prosecution. So now, with that background for context, let's have a look at some of what Mark Pomerantz put in his resignation letter. It begins: Dear Alvin Bragg of course is the new district attorney who replaced Cy Vance, the new district attorney who, notwithstanding the evidence, has decided not to prosecute Donald Trump for the crimes he inarguably committed. Dear Alvin, I write to tender my resignation as a special assistant district attorney and to explain my reasons for resigning. As you know from our recent conversations and presentations, I believe that Donald Trump is guilty of numerous felony violations of the penal law in connection with the preparation and use of his annual statements of financial condition. His financial statements were false, and he has a long history of fabricating information relating to his personal finances and lying about his assets to banks, to the national media counterparties, and many others, including the American people. The team that has been investigating Mr. Trump harbors no doubt about whether he committed crimes. He did. In late 2021, then District Attorney Cyrus Vance directed a thorough review of the facts and law relating to Mr. Trump's financial statements. Mr. Vance had been intimately involved in our investigation. He concluded that the facts warranted prosecution, and he directed the team to present evidence to a grand jury and to seek an indictment of Mr. Trump and the other defendants as soon as reasonably possible. This work was underway when you took office as district attorney. You have reached a decision not to go forward with the grand jury presentation and not to seek criminal charges at the present time. I believe that your decision not to prosecute Donald Trump now and on the existing record is misguided and completely contrary to the public interest. In my view, the public interest warrants the criminal prosecution of Mr. Trump, and such a prosecution should be brought without any further delay. Most importantly, the passage of time will raise additional questions about the failure to hold Mr. Trump accountable for his criminal conduct. To the extent you have raised issues as to the legal and factual sufficiency of our case and the likelihood that a prosecution would succeed, I and others have advised you that we have evidence sufficient to establish Mr. Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and we believe that the prosecution would prevail if charges were brought and the matter were tried to an impartial jury. No case is perfect, whatever the risks of bringing the case may be. I am convinced that a failure to prosecute will pose much greater risks in terms of public confidence in the fair administration of justice. As I have suggested to you, respect for the law and the need to reinforce the bedrock proposition that no man is above the law require that this prosecution be brought even if a conviction is not certain. I fear that your decision means that Mr. Trump will not be held fully accountable for his crimes. I have worked too hard as a lawyer and for too long now to become a passive participant in what I believe to be a grave failure of justice. I therefore resign from my position as Special Assistant District Attorney effective immediately. Sincerely, Mark F. Pomerantz. So that is a very serious letter from A longtime public servant Mark Pomerantz, and you know Alvin Bragg might not be willing to indict Donald Trump, but that letter from Mark Pomerantz, in a very real sense, is an indictment of District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and the people of New York, and by extension the people of the United States of America, deserve some answers about how Alvin Bragg could refuse to do his sworn duty to faithfully execute the laws of New York State when the evidence seems clear that Donald Trump committed multiple felony offenses. As Mark Pomerantz said, they have the evidence to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's a grave injustice not to indict him, not to take it to trial, and it undermines our confidence in the system, and it makes a mockery of the words "no man is above the law," and the people of New York deserve an answer now. Prosecutors get to exercise what we call prosecutorial discretion in deciding what cases to bring and what cases to decline to bring. But when the evidence is clear, when we have enough evidence to obtain and sustain a conviction, we have a responsibility to bring those charges in. There are times when prosecutors abuse their prosecutorial discretion. It's not unfettered, it's not unlimited. You know, a decision like this, the one that Alvin Bragg made to refuse to prosecute Donald Trump for crimes the evidence proves he committed, that's more befitting of Bill Barr and his prosecutorial approach, you know, using the Department of Justice's prosecutorial resources to help Donald Trump's criminal associates like Mike Flynn and Roger Stone. This is a variation on that theme. This is something I would expect from Bill Barr, not any other prosecutor in the country, not Alvin Bragg, though we know very little about him because he was just elected to office, and one of his first acts is to overrule the experienced prosecutors who were intimately familiar with the evidence and said, "We've got the goods on Trump, he committed crimes and we can successfully prosecute him." And Alvin Bragg said, "Not on my watch. The people of New York and the people of the nation deserve answers to the question, why are you walking away from your duty to faithfully execute the laws of New York?" And mind you, there is a provision in the New York State Constitution that enables a governor to remove a district attorney for cause unclear whether there would be an adequate basis here, but what we do know is that there are already two candidates running for New York governor who have pledged to remove Alvin Bragg for dereliction of duty for misconduct if they are elected. Sounds like a winning platform, a winning campaign promise, because it's hard to argue that the people of New York should have confidence in the institutions of government, should have confidence in the criminal justice system, that the laws are dispensed fairly with respect to not only the rich, influential, powerful, connected white men like Donald Trump, but with respect to everybody else, the poor, the powerless, the disenfranchised, folks who aren't influential, aren't connected, aren't white men of privilege. The people of New York and the people of the nation deserve an explanation, because this cannot stand not unexplained, because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow. Mohammed Shoaib.